Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We're back. Another episode of the Jasmine Minimum Battle Series. We've got a ton of great challengers in this one. This is going to be incredibly interesting. Now, up to this point, we have managed to beat Pryce, Chuck, and Jasmine with 31 Pokemon completely legitimately, and 9 Pokemon by using struggle strats, or in some cases, rare candies to get through this section. 4 Pokemon have failed, however, and today I think we might add to that fail column. We're just going to have to see how it works out. We start off today, though, with the entire Poliwag line, including Politoed from Gen 2, and that's going to just be kind of interesting to see. I mean, Poliwrath with that dual water fighting type, I think has everything that it needs here, but the rest of the water types really shouldn't be that bad, I don't think. It's going to be very interesting to do the Abra line. I think the elemental punches will save them, however. The same could be true for the Machop line, though, I mean, the fighting type is pretty good in this section of the game overall, but our 2 wild cards today are definitely Togetic and Xatu. Those 2 Pokemon, I'm not sure how they're actually going to perform. Togetic, of course, does get access to Metrodome, which could be very useful, and Xatu does have access to Nightshade, so if it gets to a high enough level, maybe it gets the ranges it needs, but I'm not sure how it's actually going to work out. On top of that, we will add in 2 member picks. We've got the Abra up there, and we've got the Jumpluff, both of which we're going to see how they do. Abra elemental punches, I think, will make it pretty OP, but Jumpluff, we'll just have to see. I think it has enough status moves to get through, but we're not really going to know till we get there. I mean, healing in battle is a good benefit to have in this point of the game, so that could be what saves it. But honestly, I just don't know until we actually try it, because I do not pregame these ones. So place your own predictions down below. I'm going to guess that we get through with everything except maybe Xatu. I think Xatu might be done in this one, but who knows? Togetic might also be pretty bad. I'm going to have to double check Togetic's learn set here, but I don't think it learns a lot of moves, so could be a tough Pokemon. We'll just have to see how it works out. But let's get this whole thing started off with our Polys, starting with Poliwrath, which I think will be the best of them, and let's just see if this will actually be as easy as I think it will be. But now, just before we get into this, I want to ask a small favor of you guys who watch these videos. You see, every now and then YouTube rolls out a new feature, and I never know if it's actually useful or if it's just going to be one of those things that they do for like 3 months and then they get rid of it because nobody actually used it. And the most recent version of that is what's called hype. Basically, you use hype to promote videos that you like from creators that you like, and you can do it up to 3 times for free in a week. Apparently it resets on Mondays or something like that. But honestly, I don't know if hype actually has any impact on a video from a small creator, or if it's just something that only will have any benefit maybe for super big channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So I want to put it to a test. If you're in the United States or you have that hype button below the video, just go ahead and try clicking it. And I've asked that you just go ahead and try clicking it only on this video. Don't do it on any other videos. I want to see if there's any actual impact. The reason I'm choosing to try this test on a minimum battle series video is because the view performance on these is actually really consistent. So if there is any noticeable impact from the hype, I would actually be able to tell more from a video like this than I would be from, say, the Lucky Egg Chansey that we did last week, because the one-off Pokemon with special held items is actually something that will draw in new audiences and kind of skew the data. So basically, yeah, if you'd like to try helping me with this experiment, consider hitting that hype button, and let's find out if it actually does anything for a small creator or not, or if it's just a complete waste of everybody's time. But with that, let's get into Poliwrath and get this action going. Now, of course, Poliwrath is coming in with Surf, Hypnosis, Double Slap, and Submission. And Submission is the move that I think puts it over the edge compared to the other Polys because of the fact that it's going to be super effective against Jasmine and against Pryce. And we're going to be in a pretty good situation against Chuck as well. So honestly, I expect role-playing as Chuck here, we're going to completely crush everything. In fact, maybe we should just try to do it all in order. Let's go fight Chuck first and just see if we're enough to beat him them. We'll do Jasmine in order and then maybe Pryce, but I don't think this Pokemon actually needs the Rocket Hideout. Now, we also have the massive advantage with Poliwrath that it is in that medium slow level up group, so it's going to level up faster than most Pokemon in this section of the game, which is why I'm kind of confident just going right away to Chuck's gym without even taking on all of the Lighthouse trainers, just because I kind of want to see if we can do this with the minimal amount of experience required to get to Chuck. So first up, we have the Black Belt Bros, of course, where they're weaker against physical attacks than special attacks. So I'm going to go Submission, and yeah, that did massive damage. We could just double slap Hitmonlee down from there. We get a level up to level 29. That brings out now the Hitmonchan. Yeah, sure, it knows Thunder Punch. I don't think that's anything to really be scared of though. And it even goes Comet Punch against us, so it just never stood a chance. We easily win that fight. And for everything else, we have Stab Surf, which should be super OP here. So coming into the Chuck battle at level 30, I'm just going to give a Mint Berry here and see if this is enough to actually get us through. Honestly, it might not be that big of a challenge since we have a Mint Berry on and he doesn't. If we just land Hypnosis on his Poliwrath, that might be game over right there. So Chucky Boy attempt number 1, he leads off with Primeape. We will go Surf on this Pokemon. We get a one-hitter with a crit. That brings out his Poliwrath that's at the same level as ours, but we land the Hypnosis first. Now we can go into Submission on that Pokemon. Looks to be a 3-hit KO. Oh, I misclicked and used Surf, but then he misses the Hypnosis. You'll notice we're faster here because we have max DVs and we have the badge boost and speed from Whitney, which means that we just have a massive advantage here. Sure, he lands the Dynamic Punch, but as long as we don't hit ourselves in confusion a bunch of times, we should win. But then he actually takes me down with only 6 HP remaining. Are you kidding me? Oh, that was just terrible luck. Clearly, Chuck heard me talking trash here and decided to get some revenge, but we do have the stronger Poliwrath overall. The second attempt, we actually get a 2-hit KO on the Primeape though, so we're going to have to be a little bit more careful since we do have one Leer on us. So we put his Poliwrath to sleep. We're going to go for the Hypnosis on it. We have the advantage of being able to recover one Hypnosis after he hits us. And this time we don't get a Dynamic Punch, so we simply knock him out and get to level 31. Honestly, him waking up and hitting Dynamic Punch was insanely lucky. He could have stayed asleep more turns, so honestly, I don't think that was actually that random. He just got really lucky on the first one. But now we can teach Kenya how to fly after talking to Chucky Boy's wife, and now we're going to actually go and see Jasmine so we can learn about her secret potion. We didn't need any secret potions to bulk up our Poliwrath in order to beat Chuck though, so I think that Jasmine's probably not going to get enough advantage by taking that potion with her Steelix before we get there. And after delivering that secret potion, we're ready to take on Jasmine. This might not actually be that hard, but let's see what we do with Submission and Surf against these Magnemites. That's the only real risk that I see in this fight, so I will give a Paralyzed Cure Berry just in case, and oh, we gave it to Kenya instead. There we go. Now that we've got it on properly, we'll save the game and let's try Jasmine. So Jasmine attempt number 1, let's see what Surf does against this Magnemite. It is not a one-hit KO, so we do get paralyzed there. We're gonna have to go for Submission to get the one-hit KOs here. Let's try Submission on the second Magnemite, and that does get the one-hitter right there. It's because we're more of a physical attacker than a special attacker, and it's not like the defense is that much higher on the Magnemite, so we definitely get the advantage from using that move. But here against Steelix, I think we go Surf first, and that did massive damage. She goes Sunny Day, which is going to turn this into a 3-hitter, but honestly, I'm not scared of Iron Tail, so there's just nothing this Pokemon can really do against us, as we easily win on the first attempt. Still, the moral of the story is use Submission. It's actually the better move there against those Magnemites. Even though it has a chance to miss, it is going to be your way to score some one-hit KOs there. Still, with that done, now we can go over and just beat up on the Rockets, and I don't think they stand any chance whatsoever. And here we should just be gaining a bunch of extra levels before we go and completely crush good old Pryce. I don't think he deserves to be the gym leader here, given the fact that, you know, he's probably weaker than Chuck. And of course, the Rocket Hideout is nothing to worry about. We get straight to the last trainer, mostly by just spamming Surf. So it's pretty easy to get to this point with this Poliwrath. Here, I'm just going to go Surf on the Arbok, which is going to be a 2-hit KO, unfortunately. It doesn't quite get the 1-hit range. Still, we're going to take it down the next turn with no issues. Gloom comes out next, and I'm just going to slap this Gloom boom. We have the double slap, which isn't even really a good move, but it still only takes 2 turns to take that one down. And now against the Murkrow, we can really go anything. Its stats are pretty close and everything is neutrally effective, so I'm just going to go submission and get the one-hit KO there, getting us to level 35 as we get ready to go to Pryce. And as we can see here, we got to Chuck at the exact same level as his Poliwrath. So if Chuck were playing the game on minimum battles, it would be basically the same as the Poliwrath we have here. So if we beat up on Pryce here nice and easy, we're going to prove that Chuck should have actually been the 7th gym leader, not Jasmine, not Pryce, because he would have beaten both of them. In fact, I have this long-standing theory that the gyms in Johto are actually in reverse order, that they should have been in the opposite order in order to guarantee that a stronger gym came after the previous gym. In this version, it seems like each gym is followed by a type that is weak to it, which is just kind of a weird design choice, given that Gen 1 kind of worked in the opposite way. You know, Misty would beat Brock, Surge would beat Misty, etc. Here we don't really see that in the Gen 2 games. But here, let's just beat up on Pryce and basically prove that he at least deserves to be demoted to badge number 5. Let's see how this goes. So of course, Pryce leads off with a seal. I'm actually going to put this one to sleep just because I don't want to get my speed drop. And submission just one-shots there anyway. We'll stick with submission on the Dugong, which is a one-hitter as well. Now for the Piloswine. It has lower special defense by a pretty significant margin. So I'm going to go Surf right here. And that is a one-hit KO as well. So we can see that basically Chuck would just one-hit KO all of Pryce's Pokemon, which proves that he should be ahead of Pryce in the pecking order. But with that finished, it's now time to check in on Politoed and see if it can stack up to Poliwrath, given that it will not have the fighting typing. So Politoed comes in with a worse moveset overall because it has Water Gun down there instead of Submission. And while we can learn Dynamic Punch, we don't have quite as good moves to use against Jasmine's 2 Magnemites, which honestly could be a problem. Still, I'm going to attempt to go the same route that I did with that Poliwrath, just to see if maybe Politoed turns out to be enough. So just like Poliwrath, I'm coming to Chuck without even doing the Lighthouse, just to see how this actually stacks up with the minimum amount of experience. So here against the Black Belt Bros, I'm going to go Surf. It looks like we did slightly less than half to the Hitmonlee, but we do get the 2-hit KO there. But that makes me a little nervous for Hitmonchan that this is probably going to be a 3-hitter. We get paralyzed by the Thunder Punch as well. Then it goes Ice Punch though, which is just bad strategy. And in fact, we did get the 2-hit KO, but we're going to have to backtrack out to heal because of the status that we took right there. And we did take more damage than what we took with the Poliwrath. Still, everything else here has pretty bad specials, so we should make our way to Chuck pretty darn easily. And as we get to Chuck, we're going to repeat the same strategy. Give him Mint Berry, and let's just see if we can actually manage to win. First up, we've got the Primeape. We're going to go for Surf on this Pokemon, and it does more than what we did with Poliwrath because we have higher special attack. Still, we take a Leer because it took 2 turns to knock that one out. Now, once again, we are faster than the Poliwrath due to the fact that we have the badge boost in speed and max DVs here. So we will put Poliwrath to sleep, but now I'm not sure if our best play is to go Surf or Double Slap. Let's see what Surf does first. That did 22 damage, so this would be a 5-hit KO with that move. We're gonna have to put Poliwrath back to sleep, but if it stays asleep, we can actually just knock it out like this. It wakes up and uses Hypnosis on us, but we heal with the Mint Berry and put it back to sleep. We just need to land 3 more hits. It stays asleep and stays asleep, and that means that we do in fact win on the first attempt with no damage taken, but it did require a lot of Hypnosis luck in 5 turns, which is definitely much worse than what we were dealing with Poliwrath there. But now it's time to see if the higher special attack is enough to actually allow us to one-hit KO the Magnemites on Jasmine's team without going and taking any more battles than required. So we will go up the Lighthouse in order to meet Jasmine, which will have 3 battles in here, but then it's straight on to her gym. And as we deliver the secret potion that she claims to give to Amphi, but is actually going to go ahead and give to her own Steelix, it's time to go take on Jasmine and just see how she goes. So Jasmine attempt number 1 with our Politoed. I did not even put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and I didn't heal. Rip. Okay, sorry, we have to run out and heal before we can actually try this because we had no Surf PP remaining. So let's try again. This is the first legit attempt at Jasmine. So first up, I'm just going to go all in on attack. Let's see what Surf does against this first Magnemite. It is a one-hitter with Surf. We use Surf on the second Magnemite, and once again, one-hit KO. That brings out the Steelix, where we can now go Surf and do almost 100%. It had only 2 HP remaining as it goes Sunny Day. She will Hyper Potion, but still this is at worst a 3-hit KO, and even 2 hits is enough, so she never dealt any damage to our Politoed as we easily won that fight. And with that, we're ready to just make our way over to the Rocket Hideout. This should be super easy, and then it's on to Pryce, where we have a type advantage since we resist Ice type moves. We don't have anything quite as good for the Seal and the Dugong though, and that could possibly be a problem. I don't think so though. I think we're gonna crush just as we are. Now, as usual, the Rocket Hideout is really no issue for this Pokemon, so we get to get straight to the final executive, which should be a pretty darn easy fight here. We're just gonna go for the Surf yet again on Arbok. This time we do get a one-hit KO. That brings out Gloom, where we'll just double slap here since we have nothing better. It's gonna take a few turns to knock this one out just because of the fact that we don't have as much attack as Poliwrath did. But now against the Murkrow, our best play is just to go Surf here, and it's still a one-hit KO on that Pokemon as we get to level 35. We could learn Perish Song, but we will not learn that move since it's useless in a solo challenge. Instead, we will now catch these 3 electrodes that we have to catch and make our way over to Pryce, which I think should be incredibly easy. So as we come into Pryce, I'm going to start off with no changes to my moveset, which means we're just rocking Double Slap and Surf here. We're just going to have to see if this is enough. We might need more PP in our moves though. Still, if this doesn't work out, there are plenty of upgraded moves to add on. We could add on Strength, Headbutt, Return in a desperate situation. So there are plenty of ways that we could try to get through here, but let's just start with what we've got. So Pryce attempt number 1. I'm just going to lead off with the Hypnosis again here. I was worried about getting my speed dropped. Of course it had to get the speed drop. Finally, we get Seal to go to sleep so that we can start slapping it. And we can see that Double Slap does very little damage here. Still, it only took 2 turns after we got that Pokemon to go to sleep. We will put Dugong to sleep as well, just because of the fact that it could go rest against us, and that's just really trolly. Still, we're going to need to hit a lot of Double Slaps to take this Pokemon down. Still, we get the luck. Piloswine's out last. We'll go Surf, and this is going to be a one-hit KO. So once again, we prove that Polys are just far too powerful for Pryce, and that's our second Pokemon through this episode on Minimum Battles. Now, Poliwrath comes in with Surf, Hypnosis, Headbutt, and Rain Dance in this section. I actually had to replay through the last section just because I apparently didn't save my progress. But we are now ready to progress in the game. But the fact that we've already used some additional TMs makes me feel like we're probably not going to be quite on par with our evolved forms here. So I think it's going to be best to just take all of the battles that we can in this section before we get too seriously into fighting against the gym leaders. Though who knows, we may be able to beat Chuck just because we'll outspeed and have Hypnosis, plus Headbutt could be kind of strong there. Still, unlike the evolved forms, I will come and clear out the lighthouse first. Technically, it's the more efficient routing through the game anyway, so there's not really a reason not to go here. The only reason I skipped it before was just to see if the 2 evolved forms of the Polys could do it on true minimum battles to Chuck, and it turned out they could. Still, I'm just going to give this Pokemon a little bit more of an advantage here, given the fact that we are a little bit weaker than the evolved forms. So that brings us to the Black Belt Bros, where I'm going to lead off by just going Headbutt on these. I think that's the best move. We're faster, we can get a flinch just like that. It's nearly a 2-hitter, turns out to be a 3-hitter, but it's really not that bad to get through. So that brings out the Hitmonchan, which is looking like a 2-hitter here. Oh, we must have gotten a crit with the first one though, so it is a 3-hitter still as we get to level 30. And sure enough, we get to Chuck with no issues, but let's see if we can actually manage to beat him. We're a heck of a lot faster here with 84 speed, but our defense and our attack and special attack just aren't nearly as high as what we were dealing with before, so it might not be quite as easy as you would expect. Still, let's find out. First up on the Primeape, we go for Surf. This appears to be a 2-hit KO as it goes Fury Swipes. After that, the Poliwrath comes out. We can go Hypnosis here. We miss and it goes for Mind Reader. We put it to sleep the next turn. I will Headbutt once here just to see the range. It looks like Headbutt did 19 damage there. So this is not looking great. This is a maybe even 6-hit range here with the Headbutt. Poliwrath, of course, wakes up and puts us to sleep. And I did not put on the Mint Berry, so we're going to probably go down on this first attempt here. Still, I think that can be rectified with the Mint Berry and just better sleep luck against that Poliwrath. So let's just test this a little bit more. So next attempt, we are back to Poliwrath. It just goes Dynamic Punch right away and now puts us to sleep. We heal with the Mint Berry, but we're in kind of bad shape, below half health already. We hit ourselves in confusion again. Finally, we snap out, but we get knocked out by another Dynamic Punch. And we can see just how much damage we're taking here from that Poliwrath. So Chuck is clearly trying to impress upon us the fact that you really should evolve your Poliwhirl into a Poliwrath in this version of the game. Still, the third time might be the charm as we put Poliwrath to sleep. It seems to be staying asleep as we headbutt it down, and so finally we do manage to win against Chuck. Just not nearly as pretty a fight as what we were dealing with previously. And honestly, that fight makes me nervous to go straight to Jasmine because while yes, this Felix shouldn't be too bad, the two Magnemites are probably not one-hit KOs with this level of special attack from our Surf. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go clear out the Rocket Hideout, and that should give us enough levels that we should be able to get through pretty easily, but let's just see how this actually works out. Now, of course, we get through the Rocket Hideout nice and easy, so we can get to the final executive fight with our Poliwhirl, but of course, our attacks don't hit quite as hard, so this Arbok is definitely going to be a 2-hitter without the crit. Fortunately, we get the crit there, so that's very nice. Now, against Gloom, Headbutt is significantly better than the Double Slap, so it does look like a 2-hit KO there, which is also very good. We get to level 34 as Murkrow comes out. We can go Surf and just get the 1-hit KO on that Pokemon. So really not too bad, but there were a lot more spots in this section where we were dealing with 2-hit KOs rather than 1-hitters, which shows that Poliwhirl really does need to be evolved in this version. That's a big contrast to Gen 1, where Poliwhirl actually outperforms Poliwrath in terms of a full game solo run because of how incredibly broken Amnesia is in that version of the game, plus the fact that it has higher speed means that it outspeeds a lot more opponents as you go through the challenge. Those two things together, plus the Hypnosis, can be just so incredibly broken that you end up destroying everything in the game, making Poliwhirl one of my top 3 best Pokemon for a full game solo challenge in Gen 1. Basically only beat out by things like Mewtwo and Hypno on minimum battles. Mewtwo because it's just uber powerful, and Hypno because it has the best typing with Sleep and Badge Boost glitch in Gen 1, making it actually better than Alakazam on a minimum battles challenge. Alakazam would probably beat it in a normal challenge, but anytime that you start going minimum battles, you'd much rather have Sleep and Badge Boosts. Anyway, it is now time to get to Pryce. I'm going to try him first since we have a resistance to all of his moves, and Headbutt should be pretty decent against the first 2 Pokemon. Let's see how this actually works out. So first up, we miss Hypnosis on Seal, and it does manage to get the Icy Wind speed drop. Still, this looks like a 2-hitter with Headbutt, so we take it down nice and easy. Dugong comes out next and is still slower even after we had the speed drop. So now we can just start headbutting this Pokemon while it's asleep. It's going to be a 4-hitter from the looks of things, but then he goes Rest, which we really just don't care about. It's just giving us more turns to sit here and just headbutt him. So he's in this kind of like weird loop here. I'm going to just set up Rain Dance here and go for like a Surf. Let's see if we can get him where he's not in a range to actually go for the Rest here. Sure enough, here he wakes up and he doesn't go for Rest, so we can put him back to sleep, and then we just need him to stay asleep for 1 turn as we knock him out. That brings out the Piloswine. I went Rain Dance by mistake, but it's not really a big mistake. We just go Surf the next turn and destroy it. So we easily get to level 35 and we get a level up to learn Body Slam. I'm going to learn this over Headbutt. We could always learn Headbutt again later if we want to, but the Body Slam paralysis could be pretty good in the next section. We could even end up in a situation where we go like Body Slam for paralysis analysis and follow that up with Headbutt in some spots. But for now, I'm just going to go with this moveset and see how it works out. But now we have to make our way back to Jasmine. I don't think this will be too bad at this point. I think at this level, we will one-hit KO those Magnemites with Surf, but let's see if that's actually the case, or are we going to have to go for sleep strats? There's only one way to find out, but I am going to put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry just in case we need it. If we're just missing the range though, Mystic Water could be the play here. We'll just have to see. First up, we've got the first Magnemite where we go Surf, and this one is a one-hit KO. Very nice. That brings out the second Magnemite, which we easily destroy. Steelix is out next. We go for Surf. We know she's going to go Sunny Day, so I think we should go Rain Dance here. And once we Rain Dance, she can heal all she wants. We're just going to go for Surf and get the one-hit KO there. That's why Rain Dance could be really overpowered, especially if you've got an opponent that's guaranteed to heal. You can simply go for the Rain Dance to double the power of Surf and then knock them out the next turn. So hey, Poliwhirl gets through without too much trouble. Most of the time wasted here, and like the TMs that are showing up, that's from me having to replay the earlier section of the game. Honestly, it wasn't that inconsistent anywhere. It's just not getting quite the ranges of the evolved forms. But that does bring us through to the last Pokemon in the Poly line, Poliwag. By far and away the weakest, but it does have the most swag of any Pokemon in the game, so it's probably not going to be that hard. Let's find out. And it turns out that Poliwag's another Pokemon that I didn't save after the last section, so I'm going to have to replay up to where I was. I believe I went to the lighthouse with this Pokemon, so I'm just going to get that out of the way. Then we'll go down and check in on Chucky Boy. So here I'm just very interested to see how we do in Chuck's gym with this Pokemon, but let's lead off with the Black Belt Bros, where sleep might be required here. Sure enough, Hitmonlee with a single jump kick does over half to this Pokemon. Still, Headbutt is just a 3-hit KO, so if we manage to keep it asleep for more than 2 turns, we should actually be able to win this fight. Still, Hitmonlee keeps waking up, causing us to get knocked out on that turn, so we're going to need better luck than that if we're going to get through this. Yet again, he wakes up, so we get jump kicked there, but we do at least survive to go to the second Black Belt Bro this time. Fortunately, Hitmonchan goes down without any trouble as we get to level 30, and now we can make our way through the rest of the gym. It turns out that Poliwag learns Body Slam just before Chuck, so we're gonna just add that on over Headbutt. Yet again, I think this is the best play, and let's just see if this is enough to actually beat the gym leader. I will go Mint Berry just in case, but this one might just be possible at our current level. First up, of course, we've got the Primeape. I'm just gonna stick with Surf here. I'm not sure if this is a 2-hitter though. This might be a 3-hitter. In fact, it is, so I'm gonna Body Slam it down on the last turn. That brings out the Poliwrath. We miss our Hypnosis. It hits its Hypnosis. We heal with the Mint Berry and put it to sleep the next turn. I'm gonna Body Slam after that, but we have to get this Pokemon back to sleep. He goes Mind Reader, which is really good for us, but we can see Body Slam only did 20 damage here, so this is a 5-hit KO with this move. We managed to get a nice critical hit though, so we take it down in 4 turns and we beat Chuck in the first attempt. So that was pretty good. I mean, obviously good sleep luck there to get through that, but the first Black Belt Bro fight really was not going well, so it's not like we were perfectly consistent in that gym with that Poliwag. So now I think we absolutely have to follow the same strategy as Poliwhirl. Let's go take on the Rocket Hideout before we even think about Jasmine, because again, we don't have any decent super effective moves against those 2 Magnemites. So once again, even Poliwag gets to the end of the Rocket Hideout with no major issues, though yet again, there are a lot worse ranges. We had to heal a couple times in here to actually get through this section, so we're definitely seeing the lower power come in. Still, against the Arbok, we can Surf and a critical hit just one-shots there. The Gloom, we can go into Body Slam. This is going to be a 2-hit KO. Now we level up to level 34 as Murkrow comes out. We can hit Surf, and that's going to be a 2-hit KO on this Pokemon. We did not get the 1-hitter this time, so kind of looking worse than before, but still not too bad to get through this section. So just like with Poliwhirl, I will go to Pryce first, just because I think his gym's a little bit easier, and I kind of want that badge boost and special attack. So let's see how this one actually goes. First up, he leads off with Seal. We go Hypnosis and get it to sleep. Body Slam now does about half, so this looks like a 2-hit KO. Sure enough, it goes down. That brings out Dugong, where we're gonna have to go for the sleep again here. Once it is asleep, we should be able to start Body Slamming. We can see its Headbutt did a lot of damage here though. We get a nice crit though that allows us to knock that Pokemon out. And now Piloswine, I'm gonna go for Surf. Let's see if it's enough. It's It's going to be a 2-hitter, but he just goes for Mist, which is just terrible strategy. And then the Hyper Potion means nothing as we just crit to one-shot his Pokemon. So we get to level 35 right there, and we're ready to move on now to Jasmine and just finish out this Poliwag line. So time for our first shot at Jasmine. Let's see how she actually goes here. Is this going to be enough with just the Surf? I mean, our special attack is quite a bit lower than our evolved forms. So first up, on the first Magnemite, we go Surf, and we do manage to get the one-hit KO there. Surf on the second Magnemite also gets the one-hitter, at least with a crit. Now, it's worth noting that level does calculate into the damage calculations here, so there can be situations where you have a lower special attack but a higher level, resulting in more damage against some opponents. Let's see how we do now against the Steelix. I'm going to go Rain Dance here. We don't really fear the Iron Tail, and then we can just go Surf, which does manage to get the one-hit KO, at least with a crit, so we do win on the first attempt against Jasmine. And with all of the Polys getting through nice and easy, we're up to 35 Pokemon beating the Jasmine section on minimum battles with no real issues. It's not like Chuck or Pryce were even hard for any of them. It's really just Poliwag against that first Black Belt bro. Otherwise, you're pretty solid going through this section. But now it's time to check in on our Psychic types. Let's see how our Alakazam and Kadabra do, and then get to our member pick, Abra. So first up, we've got our Alakazam, who is coming in with Psybeam, Recover, Fire Punch, and Disable. Now, honestly, Fire Punch should solve all of our problems in this section outside of Chuck, against whom we'll just go Psybeam anyway. So I think we go straight to Chuck on this one, and let's just see how it actually works out. Now, of course, the biggest advantage of Alakazam is its massive special attack, which it did manage to keep from Gen 1, though its special defense did drop quite a bit in this generation. It still has the speed and offensive output that I think makes it completely OP, especially against enemy fighting types, though we'll just have to see how it does against the Hitmons since they do have better special here. So here in our first attempt against the Black Belt bros, we're going to lead off with the Psybeam on Hitmonlee, and it still gets the one-hit KO just because our special attack is so high. So that was nice and easy. I think we're going to crush the second Black Belt bro as well, and the Hitmonchan actually survives a hit, but still that's not really anything to worry about as we go through the rest of this gym. I think Psybeam's gonna just destroy all of these black belts. So we easily make it to Chuck with our Alakazam, and now the question is, do we even need to heal going into this fight? I guess I'll just slam one potion just in case, but let's just see. I don't think the Mint Berry will necessarily be useful here. I'm just gonna go in as is one time. So of course Chuck leads off with the Primeape. We go for Psybeam and get the one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Poliwrath comes out second. We go Psybeam again, and it's not a one-hitter, but it does get confused and knock itself out in confusion. So the Mint Berry might have been useful, but really it wasn't that big of a deal. And we get through. We could learn Future Sight here, but I'm not going to learn this move. I don't think it's actually useful. I think in any situation we'd just be better off using Psybeam again. So that's what I'm going to go with. Future Sight just doesn't seem like it really brings any value. And now with that done, I'm just kind of interested to see if the Fire Punch is enough to get us through Jasmine. So I'm going to just clear out the lighthouse real quick and get up to her so that I can get that secret potion and then test this one out. So let's just give Jasmine a try right here. She of course leads off with a Magnemite. Let's try Fire Punch on this Pokemon. That is a one-hit KO. We get to level 32 after that first Magnemite, and we get to easily knock out the second one. Now it's time for Steelix. I'm going to go for the Fire Punch, and we did over half with that first hit. Iron Tail did a lot, but then she goes for the Hyper Potion, and that just guarantees the win. So she would have been better off just going for Iron Tail again, trying to damage us, but it's not going to matter either way because we outspeed, and at the end of the day, we get the Mineral Badge on the first attempt. Still, that does make me a little bit nervous for Abra, since later on it's going to be coming in with not nearly as much defense as this Alakazam, which, I mean, Alakazam already isn't a very defensive Pokemon, so that could be a tough situation. For now, though, we've made it through that entire southern section of the game, so we can now come over to Mahogany. Let's take on the Rocket Hideout and just go beat up Pryce really fast. so that we can move on in this challenge. And sure enough, we beat up all the rockets really easily, so it's time for the final executive here. She's going to lead off with the Arbok, which I think we're going to one-hit KO here. Sure enough, we do. That brings out Murkrow, the only Pokemon that we can't use Psybeam against in this section of the game. We'll go Fire Punch and still get the one-hitter there though. That brings out the Gloom, where Psybeam will get the one-hitter nice and easy as we get to level 35. Being in that medium slow level up group really does make Alakazam kind of OP, and honestly guarantees that this Pokemon's going to get pretty far in the game before it actually runs into any major issues. The elemental punches might just make this Pokemon top tier for a minimum battles solo challenge. The entire problem of this Pokemon in Gen 1 was the fact that it didn't get any special coverage whatsoever, but since Gen 2 gave it so many additional special moves, I think it might actually be one of the Pokemon that could get all the way to red at the end and have the potential to actually beat him, but we'll have to see. That's still a pretty long ways off at this point, but there are certain Pokemon like this Alakazam that do kind of present themselves as being really strong, but if you really want to see a super strong Alakazam, you should go over to RBY Pokemon Challenges. I caught a little word that he was doing an Alakazam that is far too powerful for the entire game, and yet is legitimately catchable in Pokemon Red and Blue, which is kind of insane. But for now, we're going to stick with our normal Alakazam here. We're going to take it right up against Pryce, and I think this is going to be another easy victory. So Pryce attempt number 1, we're going to go Psybeam on the Seal. We don't quite get the one-hitter. It's a 2-hit KO, still not too bad. Against the Dugong, since the Fire Punch is just neutrally effective, I'm going to stick with the Psybeam. It does over half, and we confuse the Dugong. Aurora Beam didn't really do that much. Now Piloswine comes out. Here, Fire Punch is the superior move since it's super effective, and we get a critical hit 1-hit KO. So Pryce, once again, gets retired right here. It's pretty clear why they had to put Sabrina in the post game, because she would have been far too powerful for Pryce here. But now with Alakazam done, I think it's time to check in on Kadabra and see if it can match up. So with Kadabra, I'm going to try to just repeat the same strategy that I used with that Alakazam, because we have a super effective typing against Chuck's gym, so I expect Chuck at least to be super easy, and then Fire Punch should be enough for Jasmine as long as we can still one-hit KO the 2 Magnemites. So let's just test this out and see. Still, I'm going to do the Lighthouse first, just because it's a more efficient routing through the game, not really because we actually need any of these levels, I don't think. I'm just doing this to make this section a little bit faster. So let's just see how Kadabra does against the Black Belt Bros here. Against the Hitmonlee, we go for Psybeam, and it's not quite a one-hitter. It's actually a 2-hit KO. Still, we can knock it out with anything after that. That's going to bring us against the Hitmonchan, and I'm actually a little bit nervous because I don't think we one-shot here as well. It's a 2-hitter, but it goes for Ice Punch, which is just terrible, and that gives us the easy victory as we get to level 30. Still, we actually have to heal some HP after that because we took decent damage there. Still, we outspeed everything and nothing else here has decent specials, so we get to level 31 as we come to Chuck himself. Once again, we will skip learning Future Sight and just get into this gym leader battle. Still, I'm going to give the Mint Berry just to be safe in this one, and let's see if we can manage the first attempt victory. So first up against Chuck's Primeape, we go Psybeam, and we do in fact get the 1-hit KO. That brings out Poliwrath, where we'll go Psybeam as well. We do well over half. It goes for Hypnosis, but the Mint Berry heals us, so we win on the first attempt. So I'm pretty sure Abra is going to have to take the same strategy of Mint Berry there, because otherwise it's probably going to take too much damage from any of the physical attacking moves. It just doesn't have great defense. And I think Abra will 2-hit KO with Thunder Punch against that Poliwrath, but we'll just have to see. Still, with this section done with our Kadabra, it's time to take on Jasmine, and let's just see how we do against the effective 7th gym leader of this generation. She leads off with the Magnemite, of course. I'm going to go Fire Punch, and I do get the 1-hitter on that and get to level 32. We knock out the 2nd Magnemite with no issues. That brings out Steelix. Let's see how it goes. Fire Punch does over half. It goes goes Iron Tail. We're down to 1 HP, but we do manage to knock it out. Still, the fact that we're all the way down to 1 HP there tells me that Abra is getting completely wrecked by the Iron Tail. We may need a lot of luck there with something like a critical hit in order to actually get through this one. I'm definitely going to have to take Abra to Pryce first if we're going to have any shot of actually progressing in the game. Now, it is worth noting that our Abra does have Zap Cannon because that's what the channel member who saved it gave it, but that still is not necessarily going to be enough, especially against Jasmine. Obviously, Steelix, we can't use Zap Cannon on it, and we won't have any Psychic type moves because Abra doesn't learn any. So yeah, this could be really rough. Still, for now, I think Kadabra is going to get through the rest of this section pretty darn easily. So let's just go take on this Rocket Hideout and then take on Pryce. Now, of course, Kadabra also destroys the Rocket Hideout, so we've made it to the final executive. This should be a pretty easy fight as well, but let's just see if we one-shot or not. Against the Arbok, it is a one-hit KO. Murkrow comes out next. We go for the Fire Punch. That is still a one-hitter as well, which means Gloom never stood a chance here against our Psybeam as we get to level 35. So I think this will again be a pretty easy fight against Pryce, but let's just see how it actually works out. So Pryce attempt number 1 against his Seal. I'm just going Psybeam yet again. We did not get the one-hitter and we got our speed lowered, but it shouldn't really matter. I mean, come on, we've got 69 speed here. It's perfect. Against the Dugong, we stick with the Psybeam. It looks like this is a 2-hit KO and Headbutt didn't do that much. Finally, Piloswine, we will go for Fire Punch, and we do not get the one-hitter, but it goes for Mist. So even after the Hyper Potion, it's just a 2-hit KO here, and he gets burned, so he just goes down anyway. Pryce yet again proves that he just doesn't deserve to be really anything better than like the 5th gym leader in this generation. So with that done, it brings us to channel member Renny Yguaneti, hope I'm saying that right, and his Abra, MyBra, which is rocking Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Zap Cannon. So we have a ton of special moves. We should have a lot of type coverage. The question is just, do we deal enough damage to get through the opponents? In theory, because Zap Cannon is our strongest move, we should have more of an advantage against Pryce and against Chuck than Jasmine. Jasmine's the one I'm really worried about here. I think I'm going to go to the Rocket Hideout first in this one. It's just one of those things with such terrible defense on this Pokemon. I just don't think we're actually going to survive an Iron Tail from that Steelix. And it may not even be possible after fighting all of the available fights before we actually take on Jasmine. So Renny, I'm really hoping for you here, but this might not actually work out. We just have to keep that in mind. Now, when we started doing this Pokemon originally, when it was first offered to me, actually via a super chat, the challenge was to get Abra through with Zap Cannon rather than with Psychic, because obviously with Psychic, this Pokemon would be super strong, but Zap Cannon created a lot more randomness in that earlier section of the game. And honestly, it might be a situation where without Psychic on its moveset, this Pokemon actually runs into a serious wall at some point. It's one of the things that I actually really do dislike about this generation is the fact that there aren't any Psychic type TMs available in Johto. You're stuck with your Psychic types just using level up moves until you actually get through the Elite Four. Personally, I feel like they could have either moved Dream Eater or even made a TM that was Psybeam and put that in the Johto section just to give Psychic types something to work with. But clearly the devs really wanted to punish the Psychic type in Gen 2 because of how completely OP it was in the first generation. Concern that we have with this Pokemon is that in the basement, the Raticate with Hyper Fang was enough to one-hit KO our Pokemon, so we're definitely going to need to heal going into the final fight here. This might not be a perfectly consistent battle against the last executive. Of course, she leads off with Arbok. I think Ice Punch is the play just because it's more accurate. It looks like it's going to be a 2-hit KO, but it also has a chance to freeze. Now against Murkrow, I'm going to stick with the same. We do get the one-hitter there, and that brings out Gloom. Ice Punch is a one-hit KO there as well. Fortunately, our high special attack is enough to actually get us through that battle without too much difficulty. But now, honestly, I'm not sure what to do. I think we might be best off to try to go against Pryce, since at least against him we have super effective moves against all 3 of his Pokemon. Whereas Jasmine, while yes, we have Fire Punch and it's super effective, I just don't think we'll stand up to a hit. And we've got to keep in mind those Black Belt bros were looking kind of tough even with Psychic type moves. For our Kadabra, Abra might not have a chance there with these non-same type attacking moves. So Renny, let's go ahead and try our hand at Pryce first. Since he is kind of the worst gym leader in this section, let's see if we can manage the win. So he leads off with the Seal. I'm going to go Thunder Punch on this one. It just barely misses the range to get a one-hitter. Zap Cannon would be a one-hit KO there. It might be worth going Zap Cannon on Dugong. We do about 2/3 and paralyze it. Headbutt did massive damage with a crit after that. We do manage to take that Pokemon down, but we're on very low health going to Piloswine. We go for the Fire Punch. It does over half, but then Fury Attack simply ends us. We need to not get a crit from that Dugong. So now that I know that Thunder Punch doesn't one-hit KO here, I'm actually going to try Zap Cannon on this first Seal. We missed this time, but that's probably the best play there. Just hoping to actually get the one-hit KO. If all the Zap Cannons miss, obviously we lose. Third attempt, we do manage to Zap Cannon on Seal, getting the one-hitter there. We Zap Cannon on Dugong, again paralyzing it. It's fully paralyzed, so Thunder Punch can knock it out after that. We get to level 32 as Piloswine comes out. We can go for Fire Punch. We do over half, and then it misses a Blizzard, allowing us to get the victory. So 3 attempts to get through Pryce there, which is pretty bad for a Pokemon. Granted, we're using a first stage Pokemon with no defense, but still, that's pretty sad to see any Pokemon lose to Pryce in this challenge. I think that we have to worry about just basically any Pokemon that ever manages a loss there, because if they're actually having trouble against Pryce, they're probably going to struggle against Claire's Dragonair that has Ice Beam. And then when we get to the end of the game, of course, we've got situations against Lance where he's going to have some of those super strong special moves as well. So honestly, I'm a bit nervous, but it does look like we never went down to the lighthouse. So it might have been a small mistake not to go to the lighthouse before Pryce. I'm going to get this whole section cleared out before I even try to go down to Chuck and just see how his gym actually goes. Still, we have made it to Chuck's gym, so let's just see how this goes with the Abra. First up, we've got the Hitmonlee. Zap Cannon is our strongest move, so I kind of want to see how much damage it does. Obviously, we're taking a lot of damage when we miss, but Zap Cannon only does about half. We would need to hit 2 Zap Cannons here in order to knock this Pokemon out. Fire Punch did pretty decent damage though, so it might just be a situation where we need 1 punch and 1 Zap Cannon to actually get through this. And sure enough, that is enough to get through that first Hitmonlee, but we're on low health as we go to the Hitmonchan, and it has more HP, so we might actually have to land multiple Zap Cannons here to actually get this one to go. The only advantage we have is that the elemental punches won't do that much to us, but we go down on that attempt. Here we have a little bit more health going to this Pokemon though, so I'm actually going to go for Ice Punch, hoping for a freeze. We managed to get a 2-hit KO there, so I guess that's fine. Let's try to get through the rest of these trainers now that we've actually managed to beat the Black Belt Bros. We fortunately get through the remaining trainers, though we did have to run out a lot to heal just because of our relatively low HP. But now it's time to take on Chucky Boy. I think we have to go with the Mint Berry in this one because I'm pretty sure that we're going to have Poliwrath try to put us to sleep. But maybe we can get through with Thunder Punch. If not, we'll investigate ranges with that Zap Cannon. First up though, we've got the Primeape. I'm just going to go for Fire Punch here. We do over half, so this is a 2-hit KO, and it missed a Leer, so we took no damage there. Now on the Poliwrath, we go Thunder Punch. It does over half, and it misses Dynamic Punch, so we easily win on the first attempt, getting to level 35. So this is the highest level that we can get to before we go and take on Jasmine on minimum battles. So let's just see if we can actually get her to work or not. I'm pretty certain that we are not going to one-hit KO, at least not without a critical hit against that Steelix. We can probably get through the 2 Magnemites, but if we don't one-hit KO there, we may just be dead the second that it hits an Iron Tail. So we may be resetting for that like 25% chance to get an Iron Tail miss. That may be the only way to progress in the game. Still, there's only one way to find out, so let's get into this fight. So Jasmine, attempt number 1, we Fire Punch on the first Magnemite. That is a one-hitter with a crit. Let's see about the second Magnemite. It does go down, so that's perfectly fine. Steelix comes out, we hit the Fire Punch, we do well over half. Iron Tail completely destroys us. So we're gonna need a crit or an Iron Tail miss. Otherwise, we're not getting through this one. This time we actually managed to burn the Steelix though. That causes it to not be able to one-hit KO us and go down to the burn. So we actually get through Jasmine on the second attempt. Oh, are you kidding me? Still, I mean, there were a lot of ways to get through there. We could have gotten a critical hit. We could have gotten it to miss 25% of the time, or we can get that situation where we burn the Pokemon and then it's not going to deal as much damage when it actually uses Iron Tail. So it's pretty interesting to see that, hey, Renny, you had to cheese a little bit at the end, but you did manage to get through, and there were actually better odds than just a critical hit there. So I think it's legit to say that this Abra, at least for now, continues to progress in the game. The issue that we might have in the next section is that while we have the Ice Punches to take down all of the Dragonairs on Claire's team, the Kingdra effectively has no type weaknesses other than Dragon, and so we're probably going to take quite a few hits to actually knock that Pokemon out. That might be the spot where we have to land the Zap Cannon to get this to go. We'll just have to see, but for now, Renny, thank you so much for supporting for 10 months. And let's keep running this up with this Abra. Of course, if you'd like to support the channel memberships are the best way to do it. And it does a whole lot for helping me get closer to that goal of being a full-time PokeTuber, which I am on the grind. I'm competing with RBY Pokemon Challenges to be faster to become full-time on YouTube. So go tell RBY Pokemon Challenges that he's not GSC Pokemon Challenges and that GSC has better channel members than he has. Anyway. Back to the action. And with the entire Abra line done, it's now time to get to our fighting types. I'm going to save the Jumpluff for our flying types because we're going to have all dual flying types at the end of this one. I think that will be very interesting to compare. But for now, I want to see how this whole Machamp line does here. Does Bruno just stunt on Chuck, or does Chuck actually put up a fight against Bruno? It's going to be very interesting to see. So it turns out that Machamp was another Pokemon that I forgot to save after defeating Morty, so I had to replay that section. But we're here with Karate Chop, Dig, Foresight, and Mudslap on our moveset, and I think this is a Pokemon that's worth trying to do the gyms in order. I think it's worth trying to go straight to Chuck to see if we can stunt on him. We did not do the Lighthouse in the previous section, so I think this is going to be pretty easy to get through, but let's just see if we need those extra battles or not. So first up, I'm going to take on the Black Belt Bros here. Let's just see how this goes with our Machamp. We're going to lead off with the Karate Chop. Of course, we're slower than Hitmonlee, but this is an easy 2-hit KO with the Karate Chop right there. Next, we're going to take on the Hitmonchan. We have lower special defense, but we don't have great special defense. Still, I don't think Hitmonchan could really do that much with the elemental punches, and sure enough, we get through on the first attempt with no real issues. And after defeating all of the black belts in the gym, we're ready to make our way to Chuck at level 30, so we're going to be at the same level as his Poliwrath. Let's find out which is actually the better fighting type Pokemon between our Machamp and that Poliwrath here. I think we need a Mint Berry though. So Chucky Boy, attempt number 1 against his Primeape. I'm just going for the Karate Chop. We are slower and we got leered, and then it went for Fury Swipes, but it still goes down in 2 hits. Poliwrath is out next. We actually outspeed here. It misses the first Hypnosis as we go Karate Chop. We get a crit with the second Karate Chop and then heal with the Mint Berry, allowing us to knock that Pokemon out and get to level 31. So Chuck never stood a chance. We could learn Dynamic Punch if we ever want to have a stronger same type move, but for now I don't think we need to add that on. Let's just go ahead and get HM2. I'm gonna go ahead and try my hand at Jasmine, given that we have a super effective move. And unlike Jasmine, our Machamp doesn't need PEDs in order to become super swole, so I think we're gonna have an advantage just based on the fact that we're not cheating when we get to the gym. Still, let's see if this is actually possible at the current level, and if it's as easy as I expect it to be. So Jasmine, attempt number 1 against the first Magnemite. I'm actually gonna go Dig since it's 4 times super effective. It will just guarantee this is a 1-hitter. We get to level 32 right there. Steelix comes out next. Let's go Karate Chop, and it did about a third without a crit. She goes Screech, and then misses Iron Tail. Now she Hyper Potions, and it looks like this might be a 3-hit KO. The Iron Tail did massive damage, taking us down to 4 HP, and it just barely survived with 3 HP remaining after our third Karate Chop. A single crit will end this Pokemon though. So now that I know that that's the case, let's see what Karate Chop does on Magnemite. It is enough right there. Now against the Steelix, since it's not a pure 3-hit KO, I'm actually going to use Mud Slap one time to lower its accuracy. Now we'll go Karate Chop. It missed Screech and Iron Tail. We've gotten it to low health. Now she's definitely going to Hyper Potion, but we're hoping that the lowered accuracy is enough. She misses the Iron Tail, and we managed to take her down on the second attempt. The final Magnemite is a non-factor. We just completely destroy that Pokemon. So sure enough, we can beat Jasmine. She's not as consistent as you might think because Karate Chop just doesn't have that same critical hit chance that it had in Gen 1. If this were Gen 1, we would be critting at least like 80% of the time with a Machamp. I believe Machamp is one of the Pokemon that's not actually technically fast enough to have a guaranteed crit with the Karate Chop, whereas Primeape is. It's all based on base speed in Gen 1, but most Pokemon that use these high critical hit chance moves in the first generation of the Pokemon games are actually guaranteed to crit when they use those moves. Like I said, I think Machamp is one of those rare exceptions who isn't actually guaranteed to critical hit every single time in that first generation. But somebody correct me down below if I'm wrong, because I'm just a Gen 2 player. What do I know about Gen 1? But while you guys are looking that up, we're going to go ahead and come into the Rocket Hideout, which should be incredibly easy with this Pokemon just because we're so over leveled at this point. I think our physical moves are enough to just one-shot everything, except maybe the Zubat. Zubat does kind of present to us an issue where we don't have any good moves against it. Still, there aren't that many Zubats down here, so we should be fine. Still, we may end up wanting to replace one of our moves with something like Strength or Headbutt here in order to have a neutral damage dealing move that is also physical. I'm still going to hold off on that for now though, because I honestly don't think we need it. And who knows, Mud Slap could actually be useful at some point for some accuracy strats if we get into trouble. Now with that being said, we get the chance to learn Vital Throw, which never misses but is lower priority. I'm not sure if this move is actually useful or not. Still, it is a stronger same type move, so for now I am going to learn it over Mud Slap, and I'm just going to keep Dig on the moveset. Let's see if this is a mistake or not. Tell me in the comments below, but I'm at least going to try this move out and just see, because we have enough defense, I think, to actually survive against a lot of opponents and take advantage of the greater power, but it might just be a non-factor as we go through this challenge. Still, even with the occasional Zubat, we get through the entire Rocket section super easy. So let's take on the final Rocket Executive here, where fortunately we have Dig to be a super effective move against this first Arbok. So I'm just going to go Dig right here, and it does enough damage to get a one-hit KO, at least with a crit. Against Murkrow, we can really do anything, but let's try Karate Chop. It's a one-hitter. Gloom, we go back to Dig because it is at least neutrally effective. It's going to take 2 hits here, and we get put to sleep, but Absorb and Acid aren't really doing that much, so I think we'll be able to wake up and knock this Pokemon out. Sure enough, we do, and just like that, we get to level 35 as we get ready to go into Pryce's gym. So as we get ready to take on Pryce, I think our moves are going to be strong enough here. Of course, we could go for something like Thunder Punch, Fire Punch if we need it, but our lower special attack, I think, makes it so that we'd always be better off using our physical moves. So let's just see how this actually works out. First up, we have the Seal. I'm just going to go for the Karate Chop here. We get a critical hit one-hit KO. Out comes Dugong next. Karate Chop once again one-shots with a crit. Piloswine is out last, and we one-shot with another crit. I'm not sure if those were all just lucky crits due to the Karate Chop, or if we would have knocked him out either way. But hey, Machamp gets through nice and easy. In the end, this Pokemon's not really that bad to get through this section of the game. So that, of course, brings us to Machoke, which is running the exact same moveset that we just had with our Machamp. We were running the Quick Claw at the end in the last one, though, because we needed to outspeed that Gengar. And honestly, I'm just not sure how this Pokemon's actually going to perform. Again, this could be a situation where we actually end up needing a normal type move just to have more coverage. that actually allows us to hit things like those Zubats more effectively. Still, I'm going to try to at least go down to the Chuck section of the game first just to see how it goes, though I will make sure that the lighthouse is cleared out here. And sure enough, we cleared it out in the previous section, so we should be good to go here. Honestly, the question is just, do we want to learn Strength or Headbutt here? I'm actually going to go for Headbutt on this Pokemon. This might be a mistake, but I actually think it's going to improve some parts of the run, so I'm just going to put that over Mudslap for now. The main advantage of Headbutt, of course, is that it does allow us to get some flinches, as well as when we do get to those Zubats later on, we'll have a neutral move there. First things first, though, we've got to come take on the Black Belt Bros, so let's just see how this goes. Here, I'm going to go for Karate Chop. A critical hit one-shots the Hitmonlee, so that was very nice. I think we're going to get through on this one. Hitmonchan is faster and goes for the Thunder Punch, but we manage a crit and then knock it out on the next turn as we get to level 30, so really not too bad. Now, without too much trouble, we do manage to get to Chucky Boy here, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw on a Mint Berry. I think this is the best strategy to actually try to get through this fight. Let's just see if it's enough. So first up, we've got the Primeape, which is faster than us. I'm still going to go Karate Chop. A critical hit one-shots there after we get leered, and now we are just barely faster than this Poliwrath, so we could go for Headbutt strats, trying to get the flinch. We get the flinch turn 1. It misses Hypnosis turn 2. Now I'll go Karate Chop. The Dynamic Punch does hit, and we hit ourselves in confusion, and then Dynamic Punch hits again, which was very unlucky. We wanted more Hypnosis, and we could have actually gotten through there. So next attempt, I'm going to go for the same Headbutt strat. He goes for Mind Reader into the Dynamic Punch, but we actually move this time, and we're able to knock him out on the second attempt. So Chuck's definitely not perfectly consistent there by any means, but he is winnable, and now we can progress in the game. So now it's time to try Jasmine at least. Let's just see how she goes with our Machoke here. Of course, we lead off against the Magnemite. I didn't heal coming into this fight, so this might already be a fail, but we do one-shot that Pokemon as we get to level 32. Steelix comes out second. I'm going to go Karate Chop here. We did not get a crit. Iron Tail just destroys us, so clearly we need to heal going into this fight. So coming back fully healed this time, Karate Chop will again one-shot the Magnemite. Second Magnemite comes out this time and also gets wrecked, so that brings out Steelix now. I go for Karate Chop. We didn't get a critical hit there, and it looks like this is a 4-hit without a crit. We get the crit the second turn, and that causes her to Hyper Potion. Iron Tail keeps missing, and here if this Iron Tail doesn't knock us out, which it doesn't, we actually managed to win on the second attempt. So it's really a matter of getting some Iron Tail misses in order to get that one to go. We could have also gone Dynamic Punch to try to get it confused and then use Karate Chop to whittle it down, or we could have thrown on a King's Rock to try to get some flinches, which might have actually been the best play with this Pokemon. Still, we get through without too much issue, so now let's make our way over to the Rocket Hideout and Pryce. So this time I'm actually going to skip Vital Throw on the Machoke just to see, because we have all moves that can actually get priority even though we're not going to be super fast, and it may be the situation where we're better off not going for the negative priority move with a Pokemon that's already fairly slow. It might not actually be that much of a detriment, to be honest, but you know, it does take away Quick Claw strats and other things that might actually get us through a fight in a really tough spot. So I'm gonna just skip the Vital Throw on this one. Again, tell me if you think that's a mistake in the comment section below. And of course, we get to the end of the Rocket Hideout with really no issues other than a single routing mistake that caused a reset, but honestly, that's not even a legit reset. Here I messed up and actually went for Karate Chop instead of Dig on the Arbok, which was a small mistake, but we're still going to knock it out the next turn. Murkrow can simply get hit by Karate Chop and goes down in a single hit, and against Gloom, Headbutt is the play. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but it's still enough to knock that Pokemon out pretty easily as we get to level 35. But with that whole section done, it's now time to just take on Pryce. And this should be pretty easy, I think, for a Machoke, but let's see if that's actually the case. Starting off with his Seal. Against this Pokemon, I'm actually going to go Headbutt because I don't think I'm going to one-hit KO here. I was hoping for a flinch. Of course, Aurora Beam didn't do that much. Now against Dugong, we can really do the same, but honestly, Karate Chop is the better play since it's super effective. And now Piloswine, we still have really good HP. Karate Chop does not one-shot, but it misses Fury Attack. He goes for the Hyper Potion now, but that just guarantees we're going to win either way. So we easily beat Pryce on minimum battles with this Machoke, and it has progressed now to the Rocket Radio Tower storyline and of course Claire, where I think it's gonna do pretty decently. We'll have to see how it does against rival number 4 and rival number 5 in the next section. Against Claire herself, it's not like we're facing any super effective moves, so we may be just fine as long as we have enough damage output. Still, I'd love to hear your predictions for the next section below, but for now, Machoke moves on. Let's check in now on Machop, who might actually have some struggles in this section of the game. And here, of course, Machop just used the exact same strategy as Machoke in that last section, but I think we want to go get as many levels as we possibly can with this Pokemon before we take on any of the major gym leaders. So I'm going to teach Headbutt again over Mud Slap here, and let's just go take on the Rocket Hideout first to get some extra levels. Now for Machop, I do think that the Headbutt is absolutely required because we're coming straight here to the Rocket Hideout, and there are 3 different Zubats that we have to knock out here, and they can actually do things like confuse us if we don't manage to knock them out quickly. Now, once again, we have to decide about Vital Throw, and we are in a situation where we're even more likely to be outsped by opponents, so the difference between Vital Throw and Karate Chop is not as big. Still, I'm going to skip this move just because we can get better fighting type moves, I feel. Cross Chop is coming in at level 37. We'll get Submission at level 49. But honestly, like, Cross Chop at level 37 will come in the next section, and that's a superior move in every way, shape, and form. So I think that that's what we're going to hold off for with this Pokemon. But with that, Machop does get through this section really, really easily. So we're ready to take on the last executive here. We're just doing this in a different order, so we are at a much lower level than our evolved forms were earlier in this fight, only at level 31. Still, I'm going to go dig on Arbok, and here this is just not quite a one-hit KO, and we appear to be in a speed tie, but we do knock that Pokemon out. Murkrow comes out next. We'll just Karate Chop. We get the one-hitter with a crit at least there, and now we'll Headbutt on the Gloom. This looks like a 2-hit KO, but it does flinch, allowing us to get the easy victory. So now I do think it's worth at least just trying Pryce once, since we're already over here in Mahogany Town, but I'm not sure if we're actually going to win because we have a much lower special defense stat than our evolved forms did, so this might not be a pretty fight. We're still going to try though, since we do have the fighting typing of our own to theoretically have better chances against 2 of the Pokemon on the team, so let's just see how this actually goes. First up, against the Seal, I'm going to Headbutt this Pokemon, hoping to get a flinch. It goes Icy Wind, but we still knock it out the next turn, and we did not get a speed drop. Still, Dugong is going to be faster than us either way. Aurora Beam did pretty decent damage, and a critical hit from Karate Chop did not one-shot there. Still, it goes for Rest, which is basically going to guarantee we just knock it out after that. Piloswine comes out, we go Karate Chop, it misses Blizzard, and we get the 2-hit KO, allowing us to easily win on the first attempt against Pryce. He just kind of punted on that one. Obviously, if he goes all in on attack with all of his Pokemon, we would at least have a chance of losing there, but the fact that he went Rest just gave us the free win against the Dugong. And of course, Piloswine just has that 30% chance to miss. If they actually wanted to make him good, they should have given his Piloswine Ice Beam so that it would actually hit when it uses its same type move. But clearly they didn't want to make Pryce very good here. Still, with that done, I think we're ready to go down to Chucky Boy. Let's just see how he actually goes. So first up in Chuck's gym, of course, we have the Hitmonlee. I'm going to go for Karate Chop here. It looks like this is going to be a 2-hit KO, but we do manage to knock that Pokemon out with 2 consecutive Quick Claw activations. That was pretty lucky. That brings out now the Hitmonchan, which is far less scary even with its special moves. We move first and get a critical hit and then just knock it out the next turn. The Ice Punch was a good strategy there from Lau, but it just wasn't enough unless he actually gets the freeze against us. And with that, we can now try to make our way through the rest of the trainers in the gym and make our way to Chucky Boy. And sure enough, we make it to Chuck with no issues, so let's put on that Mint Berry and hope that this is enough to get our Machop through this fight. First up, I'm going to Headbutt against the Primeape, though we don't outspeed here, so I guess Karate Chop is the better play. It's going to be a 2-hitter either way though. That brings out the Poliwrath, which we are actually still slower than. So it misses Dynamic Punch turn 1. We hit a critical hit Karate Chop that does less than half, and then it hits the Dynamic Punch, taking us to 1 HP, and we knock ourselves out. So this is not looking pretty. This might actually be a really tough fight at this point. The next attempt, we get a couple Dynamic Punch misses as we land a critical hit though, and it misses a third Dynamic Punch in a row, allowing us to get the victory and get to level 35. So clearly we just had a nice punt there from good old Chuck. Somebody told me in the comments that technically getting 3 misses in a row from the Dynamic Punch is more likely than getting a critical hit. So in theory, at least, it's always possible to get through Chuck as long as he's going for the Dynamic Punch against you. So honestly, the only way Chuck might ever wall some Pokemon is if he specifically is going for Surf because he has a guaranteed 1-hit KO. So the only Pokemon I could think of that might be in that sort of situation would be something like Golem. We'll just have to see if that actually pans out or not. But for now, we can just deliver the secret potion to Jasmine, and it's time to go to her gym and see if Machop can actually manage to Karate Chop its way through this gym leader. Jasmine leads off with her Magnemite. We go for the Karate Chop here since it's the same type. I did not heal coming into this, which is obviously a mistake. Still, we managed to knock out the 2 Magnemites with no issues. That brings out the Steelix. Karate Chop did only about a quarter there. It did 31 HP of damage, and then Iron Tail with a critical hit completely destroys us. I don't know what a non-crit Iron Tail will do here, so I think this is a spot to go ahead and heal up. We might actually need something like a Goldberry in this one. So coming back fully healed, we go for Karate Chop again on the Magnemite. That's still a 1-hit KO. Out comes the Steelix. We do outspeed. Iron Tail did massive damage. A critical hit Iron Tail does in fact 1-hit KO this Pokemon, so we're gonna need a fair amount of luck here. This time we get a nice Iron Tail miss. Then the second Iron Tail does serious damage to us. I actually didn't save after healing, so we came in with less than full health. But if we manage a critical hit here, we would win. Instead, she survives just barely, allowing her to use the Hyper Potion. We get a crit right here, but that's not enough as the Iron Tail knocks us out. Still, that just makes me wonder how a Goldberry will perform here, given the fact that a Goldberry might heal us enough to buy us 1 additional turn in this fight, and that might be what we need. Of course, the Magnemites don't change. There's easy 1-hit KOs. Steelix, now we can go for the Karate Chop. It goes for the Iron Tail. We're still slightly above half HP here after that first Iron Tail though. The second Iron Tail simply knocks us out. So that's clearly not working. The other strategy that I can imagine working here, though it's not going to be pretty, is to go for Dynamic Punch. I'm going to use this over Headbutt because we could always relearn Headbutt, but the real point here is hoping to confuse the Steelix with Dynamic Punch at that point in the battle. That might be what we actually need to get through this. So let's just try this since it is our strongest same type move at this point in the game. It might give us an advantage. Here I'll stick with Karate Chop on the 2 Magnemites because of the fact that it's going to be a guaranteed 1-hit KO. But now against Steelix, let's go for Dynamic Punch. We land it. It does over half and confuses Steelix. Now it misses the Iron Tail. I'm going to keep going for Dynamic Punch here because we saw it do so much damage. Here we can survive the Iron Tail. We actually use our Goldberry this time and then land another Dynamic Punch, allowing us to win. So Jasmine is certainly beatable here. Dynamic Punch seems to be the best play for this Machop right there. It might be better just to go Dynamic Punch and then go into Karate Chop, since you'll have fewer misses with the Karate Chop and you have that higher critical hit chance. But I'm not exactly sure how the math would work out. I think it's slightly in favor of going Karate Chop there. Still, hey, Dynamic Punch strats do work against Jasmine, and that allows us to get the victory. So with the entire Machop line also getting through in this episode, we're up to 40 Pokemon, legitimately beating the first 7 gyms of the game on minimum battles without any shenanigans. That's pretty incredible, to be perfectly honest. Though I do think some of those Pokemon might start to drop off. Like Machop was definitely looking a bit more sus than the other fighting types at this point in the game. So it might just be at the point where it's starting to hit that wall. We'll just have to see. But for now, we have managed to get through with all those Pokemon, and it's time to start looking at some flying types. we've got Xatu, Togetic, and of course the member pick Jumpluff. So let's start off with Xatu because I think this is just one of the most bizarre Pokemon in this generation. Let's see how this Pokemon actually performs though. So Xatu is coming through to this point in the game with Peck, Hidden Power, Nightshade, and Swift. And it really doesn't get that much in this section. Like we could add on Return and we'll learn Future Sight at level 35, but I don't think we're actually going to get there in this one with that medium fast level up group. And it honestly doesn't learn a same type move that's actually decent until level 65 when it gets Psychic. And by that point, we'll already be in Kanto and just pick up the Psychic TM. Future Sight is just really not a great move. I mean, it's going to be maybe the best this Pokemon can get, but it's arguably one of the worst Psychic type moves in the game, in my personal opinion. And we really don't have much else. Like, we could learn Nightmare, but we don't learn a sleep-inducing move, so we could only use Nightmare against, like, Pryce's Pokemon when they use Rest. I'm not sure how this is actually going to work out. So what I'm going to do first, of course, is go to the Rocket Hideout because I think we need all the levels we can possibly get with this Pokemon. And even then, this might just turn out to be absolutely terrible. Like, honestly, I wish that it could learn Fly before it has to take on Chuck, but unfortunately, that's not an option until after he's defeated. And that's going to be the only same type move that we can get in this section. And Nightshade might have to be our strategy to try to get through Jasmine. Pryce also has a type advantage on us. We don't have any good moves for that fight either. So this could be really bad. Still, at least Xatu learns Fly. One of the most bizarre things that I remember seeing in the movesets of this generation was that its unevolved form Natu does not learn Fly and therefore only learns Peck as a same type attacking move, which has to be one of the worst movesets that I've ever seen on a flying type Pokemon. Like, I can kind of get, you know, dual flying types in the case of, like, you know, a Gyarados with its tiny little wings not being able to fly, but the fact that they made it so that a primarily flying Pokemon, because they don't give any psychic moves in Johto, a moveset that does not include Fly is just mind-boggling to me. Now, as we come into the Rocket Hideout, one of the issues that we're going to run into here is that we've got to take on Jed, the guy who has 3 Magnemites here, and we don't have any good moves for this Pokemon. Like, Nightshade is our best move, and this is going to be a 2-hitter on these lower-leveled Magnemites, but that's still opening us up to a lot of Thunder Shocks here. So fortunately, we do just manage to get through, but that's going to be the type of strategy we're stuck using against Jasmine. I'm not sure we're going to be at a high enough level to get a good range on that Steelix. Still, we managed to get through the Rocket Hideout without any major issues, so let's just see how we do against the final executive here. First off, she's got the Arbok, where I think our best play is to go for Hidden Power Dark. Since this is technically our strongest move with our higher special attack, it still does less than half, but from here I think a couple Nightshades will just finish this one off. Sure enough, we knock that Pokemon out. Murkrow comes out next. And we don't have anything great here. It has 69 HP, so it's going to be a 3-hit KO with Nightshade. Let's see what Swift does. It does about half, okay? So Swift will 2-shot there, allowing us to get through and get to level 30. Now Peck on the Gloom is the best play, and it's just going to be an easy 2-hitter. Fortunately, we didn't have anything to worry about from Gloom, so we easily get through. But now we cannot really just go take on Pryce in this one because we don't have any good moves and we have a type weakness. So I think we have to go down to Chuck's gym, where we may be able to get through all the randos, but I'm really worried about the gym leader himself. And it really just comes down to the fact that Peck isn't a very strong move. It's only effectively 52 base power in the hands of this Pokemon. And even with a super effective Peck, it's not like we have a great attack stat to use. We're just kind of fine in the attack department. So I'm not sure. This might be a situation where we reveal that Will at the end of the game with his 2 Xatus is kind of a pretender to the Elite Four because he just doesn't have Pokemon that could actually get to that point in the game on anything less than just massive grinding. That being said, I'm pretty sure he cheats to have Psychic on all of his Pokemon so that he actually is halfway decent. We wish that we could cheat like him to get Psychic here. Anyway, let's get into the gym where we're going to peck this Hitmonlee. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. Unfortunately, we don't really have to worry about things like Jump Kick. That brings out the Hitmonchan where we can peck again. Thunder Punch did decent damage, but we still take it down pretty easily. And now we can move on to the rest of the trainers in the gym. Still, they have pretty good defense, so it's not like Peck is doing massive damage here. So while we can get through these, I think they're going to be pretty tedious and we're going to have to run out and heal quite a bit. Still, we've made it to Chuck without too much issue, so let's just see how he actually goes. Chuck attempt number 1 against his Primeape. We do outspeed, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO. He misses Fury Swipes, so we level up to level 32 right here. That brings out the Poliwrath, where we go for Peck, and this looks like a 3-hitter. He goes Surf, which doesn't do that much, and then we get a crit. So we beat Chuck on the first attempt. Surf didn't do as much damage as I feared it would, which is kind of nice. Still, that wasn't like a super pretty fight by any means. And now while we can get access to Fly, I'm not sure that that move's going to be enough to actually help us with anything. For now, I'm going to go ahead and try my hand at Pryce, because I just think Jasmine's going to be terrible in this. Now, I will teach Fly to Xatu since it's technically our strongest same type move here, and it's a massive upgrade on Peck, but it still is probably not enough to actually get us through these next 2 gyms. This is one of the few like bird-shaped Pokemon in the game that doesn't learn Mud Slap and thus doesn't have those accuracy strats to use against Jasmine or even Pryce here. Still, let's see how this goes against Pryce first. Leading off against the Seal, I'm going to try Fly just to see how much damage we do. We do not one-shot, but we at least dodge the Icy Wind, and we can just Nightshade that Pokemon down. Dugong comes out next. I'm going to go for Fly again. We do slightly less than half, it looks like. Still, I'm going to do a second Fly, and it just knocks me out with an Aurora Beam. Still, I'm going to try a King's Rock here just to see if we can manage to get some flinches that might allow us to win. So let's just test this out a little bit. This time we crit the Seal, getting the 1-hit KO with Fly. Against the Dugong, we hit Fly, but it still does massive damage with Aurora Beam. Still, we've gotten it to low health, so Nightshade should finish that Pokemon off. We get to level 33 as Piloswine comes out. We fly and misses Blizzard, but now it hits Blizzard and we simply go down. And on the next attempt, we're still going down against the Piloswine. This one's looking borderline impossible at the very least. And after a ton of attempts against Pryce, it's pretty clear that we're not winning this fight. So we have to go try something else, and the only thing to try on minimum battles is Jasmine, who we also don't have any good moves for. Like, even with flinch strats, that simply was not working there. And something like a Sharp Beak or something really isn't going to do that much for us because the ranges were not close. We were getting consistently down to very low health on that Dugong, and it wasn't like we were close to getting like a 2-hit KO range there. It was going to be a 3-hitter no matter what. And then Piloswine just has too much HP for us to take down and simply has too many turns to try to hit us. Now, we could go YOLO for something like Detect strats, but that's pretty much the last try that we're going to have. So we're just going to have to see if anything can work here. Of course, we will slam rare candies before we completely give up on the Pokemon, but right now it's definitely not looking good. So let's just test Jasmine one time just to see what the ranges look like here, but I'm really not hopeful on this one. It looks like the Magnemites are going to be 2-hit KOs with Nightshade. Of course, we get Thunder Waved and then Confused, and then Thunderbolt does massive damage. So while we did get through the first Magnemite, we're probably not getting through both. We don't have any accuracy strats here, and sure, we could put on a Paralyzed Cure Berry, but that's only going to allow us to get through one of them, and then the second one will go back into paralyzing us and dealing massive damage. So this is clearly not a winnable fight. Now, as we've covered previously, there are 6 rare candies available in this part of the game, and I'm going to start using them because it's pretty clear we need them. Let's get up to level 35, where we can learn the move Future Sight. I'm not sure if this is the best move to learn, but honestly, like, what do we have to lose by using this move? So I guess I'll learn it over Swift for now, and let's just see what that actually does for us. I'm going to go back to Pryce first, though, because we were at least getting deeper into his team, so maybe the extra levels makes a difference here. So here against Pryce, let's just go ahead and use Future Sight on turn 1. He can Icy Wind. Yes, our speed will drop, but I'm pretty sure we're still faster than everything anyway. Now we can fly up in the sky. We nearly one-shot the seal, but we get it after that, so that's perfectly fine. Now let's Future Sight again and use Fly so that we're out of harm's way for a minute. And now we can use the Future Sight to almost knock out the Dugong. Still not quite enough here as we get to the final Piloswine, so I'll fly up in the air, hit the fly. We get a nice crit there, but we still go down to the Blizzard. So honestly, we're probably best off just trying to get the KO on the first seal. It looks like that's arranged now. I think Future Sight starts to be useful against Dugong just because of the fact that it takes so many turns to knock this Pokemon out, but it might not actually be to our benefit there. We might be getting a pure 2-hit KO on that Pokemon now. Piloswine still looks like a 3-hitter though at this point. So let's just test this a little bit more. Against the Dugong, it does look like Fly is just a 2-hit KO. It goes for Rest, but we managed to knock it out with much better health now, so that is a big improvement. Let's just see what different moves do against the Piloswine. We get a critical hit Hidden Power Dark that takes it below half health. It misses Blizzard. Let's go for Fly, and that does in fact knock that Pokemon out. So it took a critical hit there. Fly is clearly the best play. You're kind of looking for a range where you get a 1-hit KO on that first seal, but at least with 3 rare candies, we were able to get through Pryce. The question now is, do we have any chance against Jasmine, considering that we're still not going to be doing much damage there? Still, I'm going to try a Paralyzed Cure Berry here just because, in theory at least, we're more survivable, and maybe with the Future Sight we can manage to get a range somehow. I'm not very confident in this though. Let's just see how it goes. So here, I'm going to go Future Sight first against the Magnemite and then heal, and now I'm going to Fly just to see what Fly does, and it does like nothing. Of course, it's 4 times resisted here, but then Future Sight does manage to knock out that first Magnemite. So Future Sight is pretty clearly a good move to use here. It's just a question of whether or not we can actually manage to survive enough turns to make it worthwhile. Still, the Nightshade is probably the better play here, just because it is a guaranteed 2-hit KO, and we may just need to get 1 Thunder Wave miss here in order to get through the first 2 Magnemites. Remember that Thunder Wave can miss 25% of the time. We get the miss right here, so we get our first shot at the Steelix. This is a spot where Future Sight is definitely my plan, and now I'm going to go for Nightshade on this Pokemon, and this is going to be a 3-hit KO. We get a nice miss from Iron Tail there. It goes Screech, we hit the Future Sight, and we actually win. Are you kidding me? It took level 36 to get the job done, but we did manage to beat Jasmine on minimum battles. We might have been able to get that to go without leveling up as much, but I don't know. I mean, Future Sight clearly put in some work there, and that required level 35, which is what we use the rare candies for. And we clearly weren't getting through Pryce at a lower level anyway. So yeah, Xatu gets through. I'm not sure how much further this Pokemon's gonna go though, because I mean, Claire's gonna have 2 Pokemon with super effective moves against this one, and we just don't have coverage. But hey, I guess we'll take it for now. Xatu progresses in the game, probably doesn't deserve to progress, but hey, we got Jasmine within just a couple attempts after a few rare candies. Still, it's definitely one of those, you know, OPTMs category already because of the fact that it has the Hidden Power Dark. So yeah, I don't think that this Pokemon's gonna get very far, but who knows, maybe return strats turn out to be completely OP. We'll just have to see. For now, that one is done. Let's move on to Togetic. Now, Togetic has made it to this point with Rollout, Charm, Headbutt, and Metronome. We will be able to learn Fly. We technically have things like Rock Smash, Shadow Ball, Mud Slap, and even Fire Blast as an option. Obviously, Fire Blast would put us in that OPTMs category. It's still too early to be able to legitimately afford Fire Blast at this point. By the time that we get to the league though, we saw in the Lucky Egg Chansey video recently that you can actually get to the point of legitimately being able to purchase 1 Rocket Game Corner TM at that point. So if we need Fire Blast for the league, that would technically be legit at that point, and we will take those off of the OPTM TMs category, since they're legitimately possible at that point without going, you know, completely ham on, you know, playing casino games. So I think that that's going to be my point of actually not considering those Pokemon to be in OPTMs category anymore. For now though, we have this Togetic that might actually need the Fire Blast in order to get through Jasmine. That may be the strategy there. But before that, I'm going to get a ton of levels because we just have type weaknesses all over the place. We don't even get the advantage of being resistant against fighting since we're also normal type, so we're getting kind of wrecked there as well. This might just be a really ugly run. Still, Headbutt is a same type move and we do have Metronome, so maybe it works out. Now Togetic does manage to get through Jed, but it required me metronoming things like Magnitude, Waterfall, and Swords Dance to actually get that to go. So that's also an issue. We could technically get through things like Magnemites by just getting the right moves, but it's going to be incredibly luck-based to actually get those moves when we need them. Now we level up and we could learn Safeguard. I just don't know that it's actually going to be a useful enough move here, so I'm going to skip that move for now. Tell me again in the comments if you think that is a mistake, but I think my moveset as it is right now is my best chance of progressing. Still, with that done, we do fortunately get through the Rocket Hideout with no other resets in this section. So now it's time to take on the final executive. I'm going to go for the rollout strat here, just hoping it builds up enough to knock out these Pokemon. Of course, we have to miss on Arbok. Still, that just means 3 more hits will knock that Pokemon out. Out next comes the Murkrow. We hit the rollout in one shot there, and Gloom, we're still using rollout and we hit, so it goes down in a single hit as well. So the Rocket Hideout has been cleared, but this is another one where I don't think we go straight to Pryce. I'm not confident that we're actually going to win there. The rollout does give us better odds than what we were dealing with Xatu. So for now, I'm going to try to go down to Chuck's gym since we're at least just neutrally damaged by fighting type moves. So maybe our moveset will be enough to actually get us through this one, but I'm not actually super confident here. Still, I mean, we've seen other flying normal types get through here, and it will give us access to Fly, which is a strong same type move, so maybe it's worthwhile to go down there. I'm not honestly sure. Still, let's just test this out first against the Black Belt Bros, where we can go for the Headbutt. Hitmonlee is faster and Jump Kick did massive damage, but Headbutt does get the 2-hit KO as we go into the Hitmonchan, and its special moves aren't nearly as scary for us. Like Fire Punch is kind of a joke. It could go Ice Punch or Thunder Punch, but hey, we'll just take what we get. We get to level 33 after defeating that Pokemon. So we'll go into the Chuck fight now with a Mint Berry on, and let's just see if this is enough to get us through. Chuck attempts number 1. He leads off with the Primeape. It misses a Leer as we hit Headbutt. Karate Chop did decent damage, but it's still a 2-hit KO there with the Headbutt strats. Now we could technically go Charm here just to reduce the power of Dynamic Punch, and we are faster than the Poliwrath, so we can go for Headbutt strats here for flinches, and it flinches twice, allowing us to get the victory. So Chuck goes down without too much difficulty there, and now we can get access to Fly, giving us another option. I'm not going to learn this immediately though, because of the fact that we don't really gain that much advantage. We already have Headbutt as a same type move, which is technically better because it doesn't take 2 turns and has the chance to flinch, but also because we may end up needing to replace some moves when we get to Jasmine. That Fire Blast might be required. Still, let's come try our hand at Pryce first. Let's just see how this one works. Rollout strats may be the play here. So Pryce attempt number 1, I'm going to start setting up rollout on this first seal. We do get the speed drop, but rollout is a 3-hit KO on that Pokemon. Dugong comes out next and hits Aurora Beam, but we hit the rollout, getting the 1-hit KO there. And now we were just slower than the Piloswine due to the speed drop. Without the speed drop, this might be fine. And it's not guaranteed that we get that speed drop from Seal. It's also 30% that the Blizzard just misses here, so I do think that this is worth resetting for. This time we get the Blizzard miss, and it allows us to one-shot the Piloswine. So we actually do manage to get through Pryce without too much issue there. It took a few attempts, sure, but really not bad for a Pokemon that has a type weakness in that gym. But now it's time for Jasmine herself. And this might be the one situation where we actually have some advantage being a Togetic versus the other normal flying types. The fact that we can learn Fire Blast and we have Metronome, so we could just try some Metronome strats here to see if it's enough to get through. Let's just test this a few times with our moveset as is before we make any changes. So the first major issue is getting through these two Magnemites. I didn't even heal coming into this. We go Acid Armor, and obviously that's just going to result in us losing. Let's go heal, but try this a few more times with the Metronomes just to see if we can get the right moves to line up. Otherwise, we're going to have to go for something else. We Metronome Ember this time, but it does not deal enough damage to actually knock out this Magnemite. But then Bubble knocks it out on the next turn. We just need a stronger fire type move here. This time we get Body Slam, which does paralyze against the Magnemite, and we get Curse, but then Thunderbolt just simply ends us. This time we Belly Drummed, which is kind of insane. If we hadn't been paralyzed, we might have been able to get through that. So let's make sure that we actually have the Paralyzed Cure Berry on here, since this is probably our best play as well. So it takes a few attempts, but we do finally manage to get through to this Steelix in this one. I'm going to Charm at this Pokemon once to reduce the power of Iron Tail. In fact, I think we could go all in on Charm just to make its attacks really, really weak. And now let's see what Metronome gives us. We get Sonic Boom, we get Seismic Toss, which does pretty decent damage, Stun Spore to paralyze it, and now Mach Punch does decent damage, but it's not enough, and we simply go down to the Steelix. And this is after tons of attempts here. We're up to 10 attempts on this one. So it's pretty clear that we're simply not getting through Jasmine as we are right now. Now, Togetic does have access to Mud Slap, which could be a strategy here. So I am going to test this one out one time. And I'm actually going to throw it on over Headbutt, because this could be our strategy to actually get through the Magnemites and at least stand a chance against the Steelix. Let's see if it actually works though. So here against the Magnemite, we can go Mud Slap. This does about half and it misses the Thunder Wave. Still, it looks like this is a 3-hitter on this Pokemon, so not great. Still, we do manage to knock that one out as we get to level 36. Now it looks like we do have a 2-hit KO on the Magnemite, and we can simply knock that Pokemon out from there. Steelix comes out, and now we're going to Mud Slap. She still hits that first Iron Tail, but I think we Mud Slap a bunch. She goes Screech, which isn't great, but I'm just going to try to get all the accuracy drops I can. But once she lands that Iron Tail after the Screech, we're basically dead. So we need a lot of accuracy luck here with the Mud Slaps. Once we get them all set up though, we can start going into Charm to lower her attack stat, which will allow us to at least survive the rare chance that she does hit us. And now let's see what Metronome gives us. We use Fly this time, which is obviously not great. We now get an Ice Punch, which did really good damage, bringing her into Hyper Potion range. Vice Grip obviously isn't great. Poison Sting doesn't affect. Psywave is trash. Aeroblast is a strong flying type move, but doesn't deal enough damage. Bite flinches at least. Cotton Spore didn't do anything for us. We used Growth, and now we get hit by the Rock Throw. And now we have nothing other than Rollout here, and Rock Throw knocks us out. So while this is somewhat better than what we were dealing with before, at least in terms of the ranges we're getting on that Steelix, it's still not looking great. And with that, I think the only strategy that's left is really to try for the Fire Blast, because everything else just isn't going to be that strong here. Fire Blast at least gives us a super effective move, so I'm just going to throw that on over the Mud Slap, and let's just see how this actually works out. So here with Fire Blast strats, of course we've got a hit against the first two Magnemites. We one-shot the first one. We of course one-shot the second one. That brings us to Steelix. Let's see the range with Fire Blast here. We get a 1-hit KO. So that is the solution to Jasmine, is to just get Fire Blast and hit it 3 times in a row with this Togetic, and you can actually manage to beat her on minimum battles. And that is technically not that bad of a strategy. We didn't have to go for rare candies on this one, and it just comes down to the fact that we actually get a super effective move there. Still, I'm really nervous about this Pokemon going forward. I don't think we can quite get rid of Metronome, because there may be spots where Metronome is our only good play, and we just don't have that much else to use as we go through this challenge. challenge. So I'm nervous about this Pokemon going forward. I don't know how much longer it's going to last, but it technically gets through this section. Not pretty, but it does actually like work out in the end. So that, of course, brings us to the last Pokemon of this episode from channel member Waferking PM, supporting my boy, the Jumpluff. He gave this Pokemon confusion all the way back in the Rival 2 section, and it's gotten to this point. And at this point, Jumpluff is actually getting some legit moves. We've got Confusion, Synthesis, Sleep Powder, and Leech Seed. We'll learn Cotton Spore in this section, I think, though I'm not sure if that's actually going to be useful for us. And we don't really have much in the way of TM learn sets here. We could learn Headbutt if we need it, but honestly, this is a stall Pokemon. The main strategy here is to put our opponents to sleep, get them in the Leech Seed, and then just start spamming Confusion. I'm going to try to go down to Chuck first, because I honestly think this is the best way to progress in this challenge. Obviously, if we can just put Pokemon to sleep there and spam Confusion, we should win, but we have the ability to heal plus the resistance to the fighting type that I think makes this Pokemon pretty strong in this section. And it looks like we got through the last section without even having to go down to Goldenrod, and it looks like we got through the last section without even having to go down to Olivine, so we could technically take on the entire Lighthouse as well here, just to be a little more efficient with our routing, just because I'm not sure we're going to completely destroy the fighting gym since we don't have the same type of attack bonus with our Confusion. So let's instead just come here and gain an extra level or two. And with the Lighthouse cleared out nice and easy, I think we're ready to go down to Chucky Boy now. Let's just see how this actually works out. Now, as we step into Chuck's gym, obviously the first thing we have to do is take on these Black Belt bros, where we're going to go straight for the Sleep Powder, and then let's see what Confusion does here. Looks like it might be a 4-hit KO on Hitmonlee. It wakes up and hits Jump Kick, but doesn't really do that much damage. We'll just go ahead and Leech Seed here while we're at it, just to get a little chip damage as well, and that is going to be enough to take that Pokemon down as we now go to the Hitmonchan. So once again, Sleep Powder, then we will follow up with Leech Seed to get some chip damage here and heal up, and then go into Confusion. And fortunately, Leech Seed can never be recovered, so it gives us a pretty big advantage in some fights, just because as long as our opponents stay asleep, we can chip them down pretty easily. Even if they wake up, it's not like it's a situation where we lose that status. So we get to level 31 as we come into this fight against Chuck, and Waferking might just be perfectly fine here. Let's find out. So first up against the Primeape, I'm going to put this Pokemon to sleep. We're going to seed it, and then let's start going into our Confusion spam here. And we've got it down to half health already, so this one should be going down pretty quick. Sure enough, it goes down just fine. That brings out the Poliwrath. We put this Pokemon to sleep. We're also going to Leech Seed this Pokemon. He goes for the full heal, but that's perfectly fine. We just put him back to sleep after that, and he continues to take some chip damage. Now we can go for the Confusion. He goes for Mind Reader. We just put him back to sleep after that though, and now it's back to the Confusion to knock him out. We take down Chuck with no damage taken. Super easy victory, and now we're ready to move on in this challenge. Still, that might be the only super easy victory, given the fact that Jasmine is going to resist our moves here, and Pryce will have super effective moves against us. In fact, 4 times super effective. So we could be in some trouble in this next section. I'm honestly not sure. The Rocket Hideout might be required here. Still, I'm going to try Jasmine one time just because we're basically just using a stall strat. So the Confusion is really more just about helping us chip our opponents down. It just might not take down our opponents fast enough, especially those Magnemites, to actually get through. We're just going to have to see. So I'm just going to try Jasmine one time. I will put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry since I think it's our best chance of getting through here, just in case we have a Magnemite wake up and use Thunder Wave on us. But let's just see how this actually works out in practice. Jasmine attempt number 1 against the first Magnemite. We go for the Sleep Powder and miss, so that's obviously the sort of situation we didn't want to see. Now we can seed it though once it goes to sleep, and let's see what Confusion does. It does like nothing. It's just chip damage here. We need a very long sleep from this Pokemon if we're going to get through, and when it doesn't stay asleep, we're basically in bad shape. Still, we do take down that first Magnemite, even paralyzed. That brings out the Steelix though, which just Iron Tails and one-shots us. Let's try this again though. We managed to get the Magnemite to sleep this time, and if we can get Confusion on it with Confusion, that could be a way to actually get through here. It wakes up and uses the Thunder Wave, but we can put it back to sleep after healing. And now back to our confusion, but it wakes up immediately. That was really bad luck. Still, Steelix comes out next. It misses the first Iron Tail. It hits the second one. We can see it does about half with the Iron Tail. So just 2 hits is enough to knock us out. And honestly, this isn't likely to get much more consistent than this because we don't really have better moves. So really, we're just stuck hoping to get really long sleeps on these Magnemites. If we get like a full 7-turn sleep, I think that's enough to knock them out. It's just not super likely to get the 7-turn sleep though, which is the real problem here. This time we do get through the first Magnemite without taking any status though, and that brings out the Steelix, which we can put to sleep. We're going to Leech Seed it, and now we're just going to start spamming the Confusion again. Obviously, Confusion won't do much, and mostly it's the Leech Seed that's dealing damage here, but we do confuse this Pokemon as it wakes up, so we can put it back to sleep, and now just go back into the Confusion spam. She's eventually going to go for the Hyper Potion, of course, but if we can get Steelix back to sleep, of course, we can use Synthesis to heal up here, and then just go back into Confusion, and as long as it stays asleep, we should be fine. So Steelix is getting on very low health here, and sure enough, we get through that Pokemon. So we go to the final Magnemite on full health, we put it to sleep, we're gonna Leech Seed here, and now we just need to stall this Pokemon out. That is the whole strategy. We even confuse it while it's asleep. It will probably wake up at some point, but here it hits itself in confusion, and then it misses the Thunder Wave, and we still have the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, so it simply goes down to the Leech Seed, and we win. Jasmine is possible with this stall strategy. It's not pretty. You have to get through that first Magnemite with some pretty decent luck, but once you do, getting through Steelix isn't really that bad, nor is getting through that final Magnemite. It's very interesting that she decides to go for the Steelix after Magnemite rather than doing the 2 Magnemites and trying to paralyze you there. Clearly, there's something about the interactions between our moves and typing that makes her think that she shouldn't send Magnemite out, but that's definitely an interesting situation to say the least. Now I'm going to backtrack just real quick because I realize I never got Kenya in this one, which means we are going to have to dodge this random spinner right here, and he always catches me. Still, after we get through him, we will get Kenya, and then we can fly, and that will just make our movement a little bit more efficient in this one. But now with that done, we are now ready to move on to the Rocket Hideout and Pryce, where the same Stally strats may come into play there. Obviously, Confusion's going to do a lot more damage to Pryce's Pokemon at least though, so while this isn't a particularly fast strategy, we all know that Stall was really OP in Gen 2, and this is just kind of a stall Pokemon at this point for the most part. Like, yes, Confusion can deal damage, but most of the time we're not actually really worrying about dealing damage as much as just chipping opponents down. When we get to Mega Drain, or even later on, maybe we'll add on something like Solar Beam, we may be much more efficient in knocking opponents out. We could even go Headbutt or Return later on, but for now I think this strategy is enough. So for now, I'm just gonna not learn Cotton Spore. I don't think I need to learn that move. I think we're just better off going with our moveset as it is for now until we get to Mega Drain. So of course, we get through most of the Rocket Hideout without any real issues. Even Jed with his 3 Magnemites was not actually a trouble for this Pokemon. But now we have to take on the final Rocket Executive, who has a Murkrow. And that's like one of the few Pokemon that we really don't have anything good against, other than we're just gonna have to stall with Leech Seed. Let's see how this goes. So of course, she leads off with the Arbok. We're going to try to put this Pokemon to sleep. Then we can go for the Leech Seed in order to get a little bit of chip healing off of this Pokemon. And then Confusion should take it down pretty quickly, honestly. But we get poisoned here, which is terrible. That's really not what we wanted to see. Murkrow comes out next. We are faster, but we missed the Sleep Powder. We hit after that though, so we do manage to at least get this Pokemon to sleep. We can Leech Seed it now, and I'm going to have to start going Synthesis here in order to heal. Fortunately, Synthesis will get us a lot of HP back, but we don't have that much PP in this move, so we really need Murkrow to stay asleep so that we can manage to just heal up as much as possible. But at some point, we're just going to have to start wasting turns against this Pokemon, since Confusion can't affect it. Still, we just need a couple more turns, and it does in fact go down. That brings out the Gloom, where we can just go Confusion. This is going to be a 2-hit KO. Acid did decent damage, but it's not enough, and we easily win as we get to level 35. So there we go. We do manage to get through that section. It's not pretty, it's super tedious, but it does work out in the end. So just like that, we have made it through to the final gym in this section. We've got to go take on Pryce, and Waferking might just be proving that this Jumpluff with Confusion is actually a really OP Pokemon. Even if it does take a really long time to knock out a lot of opponents, still is getting the job done. So let's see how this final battle goes. So first up, we've got the Seal. Let's go ahead and put this Pokemon to sleep, Leech Seed it, and now start going into our Confusion spam. It looks like this is going to be like a 4-hit KO normally, but we managed to knock it out in 3 Confusions with the chip damage. That brings out the Dugong, which also goes to sleep, and now we can Leech Seed this Pokemon as well, and then just start Confusion spam again on this one, and it seems to stay asleep too, so we are going to get through with no damage to the final Piloswine. Now we miss with the Sleep Powder though, and it hits Blizzard, but we just barely survive, allowing us to put it to sleep and now Leech Seed it, and now I think we have to go Synthesis. Still, it manages to wake up and land Blizzard, and we go down. So that first attempt, we had all the sleep luck until the final Piloswine, and we are 4 times weak to Ice, which is the main problem here. In fact, even the Dugong does over half when it uses Aurora Beam on us, because we're so weak to Ice. So here, we're gonna have to use some Synthesis when we're on low health here, and hope Dugong stays asleep for a bunch of turns. Here we do manage to confuse this Pokemon though, and it does look like it's going down, so we get back to Piloswine on full health. We miss Sleep Powder, it misses Blizzard, we hit Sleep Powder after that. Now we can Leech Seed, and it's into the Confusion spam, and we'd really love for it to get confused while it's asleep, just like that, so when it does wake up, there's a chance it will hit itself, but instead it manages to knock us out. We get back to the Piloswine on the next attempt, not quite on full health, but still decent health. Still, we've missed Leech Seed the first attempt there. We'd love to actually get this Pokemon confused again. Blizzard hits and we go down. Now, yes, we could go for something like Headbutt here over Confusion just in order to try to get a better range, especially because of the fact that we are a little bit stronger in terms of physical attack than special attack, and that move should be stronger than Confusion. So I think that's going to be my next play, is just to try the Headbutt strat. It also adds in the possibility of getting flinches, which I think is really, really valuable. So our basic strategy doesn't change. We still go for Sleep Powder and Leech Seed, but then as long as we're on decent health, we go for Headbutt, which seems to do a lot more damage here, allowing us to take down that Seal. Sleep Powder on Dugong, and now we can Leech Seed here as well, and we're just hoping to Headbutt this Pokemon down. And we managed to get back to Piloswine on lower health. We miss, he misses, and then he finally hits and we go down, but I think that we have at least a strategy here. Back to Piloswine the next attempt, and unfortunately we just couldn't land the Sleep Powder. We can see that Pryce, when he has 4 times super effectiveness, can be really tough to get through for a Pokemon unless it has strong moves against him. I still think that this one will eventually go though, just because of the healing that we can manage to do, plus the flinch strats. This time we do get Piloswine to sleep, we Leech Seed it, and now I'm just going to go straight for the Headbutts. We just want that extra little chip damage from the Leech Seed, I think. Here he's gonna Hyper Potion. He really can't do anything that turn though. He finally does wake up. We would have needed a Blizzard Miss, but we actually survive. We put him back to sleep, and just like that, we're going to win this attempt. Now there's just a range where we can actually survive a Blizzard from full health. We've seen plenty of times where he knocked me out from full health. We saw one where we survived on 1 HP, one where we survived on 5 HP. So it's clearly a range, but most of the time I think he is getting the KO there. Still, we'll take it. We managed to get through Pryce with the Headbutt strat without too many resets after we changed the Headbutt, so I think it's legit, but not perfectly consistent there for Waferking. Still, we could have gone Return or something like that to get an even stronger move. I just decided against it. Here I wanted to see if the flinches would be enough, and it turns out that we didn't even end up getting flinches. It was more just about a little bit of extra damage. on those opponents. So hey, that works. Waferking, thank you so much for already 17 months of support. Like, that's incredible. Like, going on a year and a half of supporting the channel, I cannot thank you enough. And we're going to do everything we can to get this Jumpluff through the next section. We've got to get through Claire. She's got the one Dragonair that knows Ice Beam that's a little bit scary, but the other Dragonairs aren't really going to be that bad, I don't think. And we should outspeed, so it's just going to come down to the sleep strats. Let's see how it goes. Anyway, with that, we have finished all the Pokemon for this episode. Let's check in on next time. But before we get into that, let's just see the final results for today. Of course, we have 40 Pokemon legitimately passing this section. We're now up to 11 Pokemon using OPTMs in order to complete this part, including some of these that have had to use rare candies, including that Xatu, the Pidgeot, and the Fearow. So definitely some separation happening there. Some of those Pokemon I expect to fall off in the next section. I'm just not sure how they're going to progress. But for now, they're still in the action. So unfortunately, despite my prediction, we didn't actually get any new Pokemon in the fail column, but next time could add to a little bit of that intrigue. We are going to be coming in the next episode with Victory Bell, Golem, Rapidash, Slowbro, which means Slowking's also going to be in on the action, Magnemite, Magneton, Farfetch'd, Flaffy, and Ampharos. Now, I think that Ampharos will probably be fine. I believe it learns elemental punches, so it should have enough coverage to get through. Slowbro and Slowking are also still in the action. I believe Slowpoke is actually still supposed to be in there, so we're going to have to add that one back in. It must just be an error in my back end that is marking it as fail, but we went back and did the redo last time, and with all the rare candies, it was able to get through Morty. So technically, it should still be alive, though it will definitely be in the OPTMs category. So that will actually be an 11th Pokemon. I will get that fixed. And honestly, with curse strats, those Pokemon might be fine. The Pokemon that I'm most worried about, of course, for next time are going to be that Golem when it goes up against ice and water Pokemon. Plus, it's weak to fighting and steel, so it's all weaknesses all the way. And then we've got the Magnemite and Magneton, which really don't get very wide movesets, so they aren't going to have a lot of tools to get through Jasmine, I don't think. They might just end up getting wrecked, plus the steel type is going to be weak against fighting, so they're another pair of Pokemon that could really struggle in this next part. Finally, that Farfetch'd. We've seen these normal flying type Pokemon fail earlier in the run, and Farfetch'd is more on par with something like a Pidgeotto or a Spearow than it is with Pidgeot and Fearow, so that Pokemon might just be done next time. Next week might be the first time that we have 2 or 3 Pokemon fail in quite a while. Place your own predictions down below, but I'm going to be really interested to see. Now, just a quick programming update. I've been kind of under the weather this past week, so this video is probably coming out a little bit late. In fact, I'm occasionally coughing as I record here, and I'm going to have to cut all my coughs out in the edit, but I am finally back on track. I should have videos coming out normally at this point, just maybe a day or 2 delayed, so just bear with me as I get through this. Next month, I will be having the second half of the Metal Powder Ditto run for channel members on the members only live stream. I will update you guys on the date for that in a community post, but at the end of next month, my wife is actually going on a business trip and I'm going to be home alone with the baby boy, so things might be a little bit slower at the end of October. You guys are just gonna have to bear with me a little bit there. Family, you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna be the only one here to take care of the little guy, so who knows, maybe I'll end up doing something with Cleffa for that week. We gotta redo the Cleffa run with Nightmare because that move is clearly OP on that Pokemon. Anyway, that's just a quick little update for you guys. I want to say thank you to you all for supporting the channel, watching to the end. Thank you to the channel members who we've got 31 member picks up there, but we've got like 40 channel members. So we've got a few people that got to get their picks into me. The one Pokemon that is up there that is currently in the member picks, but is actually no longer supported is Amistar. Unfortunately, the member who was supporting Ash River decided not to continue, though they stayed around for several months, so I really have to thank them for all the support. But if any of the new channel members want to pick up that Amistar, go ahead and hit me up. Let me know, either in a comment on a video or in the Discord. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, that does it for this one. Hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you in the next one. Later.